The James Show Podcast.
And I don't think you're going to be as worked up about this first story as I am. For some reason, I recognize this gets me far more upset than it gets the average person. But even if you don't agree with me completely, you'll probably be a little entertained with how ticked off it makes me to find out that taxpayer dollars are being used to get the Mavericks a new stadium. And I hate this. I hate this so much. You know how I talk about, like, I hate taxes with the hot, hot heat of 1,000 suns? You know how I hate dart with the hot, hot heat of 1,000 suns? Like, if you took both of the suns that Luke was looking at in Tatooine, you know how they had the two sun thing? Put both of those together. That's how much I don't like dart. This is right up there with them. This is one of the things that, if you want to ruin my day, tell me about taxpayer money being given to an organization run by a lady that's worth $30 billion so they could find a new stadium for the one that I'm next to. I'm at the American Airlines Center. It's fine. I was just in there a few months ago. It's not falling apart. It's beautiful. It's luxurious. Now, it might be 25 years old. Oh, no. It's been around for like a whole 25 years. I guess we need to knock that thing down. I'll tell you what. Trying to find a way to calm me down. And Parker, is there any way you would be in favor of a new stadium? Tell you what. If we could build something like the Roman Coliseum that's going to be here for 2,000 years, yeah. But this garbage where we put up a stadium and then 25 years later, we're looking for a new house, oh, that's garbage. And the taxpayers are just going to get kicked once a generation. They just are just right between the legs, just wham, just hitting them hard. And this is the norm. Like Arlington just paid off Jerry's World over there. This has been a drag on you, and this will continue to be. We just never get out from under it. That's just always going to be an extra cost of, God forbid, I want to live in a major metropolitan area. I got to fund the billionaire stadiums. And a lot of the problem is so widespread and so inured in our culture that me griping about it on the radio is not going to be the crowbar that dislodges us from this stupid line of economic thought. But it's all we know because we have public schools. All the stadiums that our kids play at are what? Government stadiums. I mean, there's some private schools out there that have private stadiums, but, you know, that is just a small fraction of where football is played by children here in Texas. It's almost exclusively a government endeavor. Then you go to the college level, still a government endeavor. Where are you going? Oh, you're going to Louisiana State University. You're going to Ohio State University, Texas A&M State, Texas down in Austin State. All these stadiums around here, whether it's for Amon Carter or the whatever they're calling the SMU one, don't at me. Just it's all government-funded football stadiums. So it's the only thing we know. And so when they actually get out in the real world, and God forbid we have the professionals who are making millions and millions of dollars and the owners who are making billions of dollars, they want a new stadium. I guess we're just swept up in the current, in the inertia of government stadiums from top to bottom. We have got to break ourselves of this. It's a drag. And look, I love the Cowboys, okay? I don't want them to go. And if the only reason they're staying here is if we can fleece the taxpayers for hundreds of millions of dollars, so a guy that's worth billions of dollars can take an organization that's worth $12 billion and get a stadium on your dime? No, that's not good. That's not a good way to arrange society. That's not a good stewardship of your tax dollars. That's not what's good for you. Remember, every dime that comes out of the taxpayer coffer to go to some project like this, whether it's renovating the old Forest Theater or some new bike path or a new dart train or some terrible idea like that, this is coming out of your backside. Even if you don't live in Dallas, when you come down here and you pay taxes and sales taxes, some of that's getting gleaned off. And instead of going to cops or going to fill the terrible potholes that are on I-45 right as you come out of downtown, one of the worst highways we have in Texas, you are paying for this. You should care. Let me try and put it to you in a more personal level. Every dollar that they waste, whether it is on all these things I gripe about, whether it's a dart or a remodel or food stamps or whatever, every dollar that's taken from you and given to this Mavericks stadium project, is it more important that you help a lady worth $30 billion build a new stadium for an NBA franchise? Is that more important than paying off your credit cards? Is that more important than paying for your child's education? Is that more important than covering your health care? You know, cost of health care is out of control. Cost of groceries out of control. Well, then let us have our money so we can buy groceries with it. If groceries are going up and the cost of everything's going up and education's so expensive and stuff, why are you spending money on this? Why do you let them spend money on this? This is so exasperating. Look, we just came out of a 3-month agreement. $75,000. The city of Dallas paid a real estate developer firm to go scout locations for the stadium. Are you getting any return on that? Is that doing you any good? Absolutely not. For one thing, I'll do it for half that if that's what they. Yeah, I know what you're looking at. You're looking at maybe, I don't know, the that gape of land over by the Reunion Tower or by where they're going to build the new convention center. I know, the old Reunion Arena site. I got it. There's a handful of places where this could go. You don't need to spend $75,000 to look for it. Well, I mean, what are you worried about? What, are they going to move to Irving? If the only reason they're here is to the excuse that they're here is if they can get help from you, say no. It's more important than it's cool. Look, I know it's so cool. I love having a basketball team right here in our backyard. I love it more when they're relevant and they're in the finals. I work at the American Airlines Center. I know this place is fine, but it's not so cool. It's not more important than my kids. Basketball should not be more important than your kids. Basketball should not be more important than paying your health care bills. Basketball should not be more important than you, God forbid, having a little disposable income at the end of the month and saving for retirement. The reason why your monthly mortgage payment keeps going up, even though you're in the same house, is terrible decisions like this. How on earth can anyone justify using taxpayer dollars for a new Mavericks stadium, even in this, the fact-finding, design, and planning phase? There is no moral, ethical, or economic justification for the use of taxpayer dollars to build a pro sports stadium. Right now, your money's being used, taxpayer funds are being used to explore the idea of building a new stadium for the Mavericks. Damn it. But Akbar says Mexico should build the new Mavericks arena and pay for it, James. Okay, yeah, well, the Mexico. Like they were going to pay for the wall. And it's not impossible to do. Some sports stadiums are privately funded. Some of them, I'm thinking of the one for the Chargers that came to L.A. L.A. wasn't going to help them out with it. And so he said, fine, I'll just finance myself. I'm a billionaire. I'll borrow some of my other rich friends' money and we'll make it. It won't be as big and as opulent and as expensive as the one the Cowboys play in, but it will have office buildings and retail and a whole entertainment complex. So the arena actually gets used year round and not just for the, 8-9 home games that the Cowboys pull off. Because that's one of the economic pains in the butt about a football stadium, especially. That Cowboy stadium, how often does it get used every year? Let's say 8-9 times for a regular season game. Quite rarely for a home playoff game. Sad to say. I know it's not a bragging point. A couple of concerts here and there. I don't know, maybe a monster truck rally or some other events. But I mean, in total, like 20 times a year? You're spending over $1 billion to make a building that's only going to be used 20 times a year, and you expect that to not be a money loser for the taxpayers? Stop it. And then I'm right here next to the American Airlines Center. Now, it gets used a lot more. But for something like this that gets used on an almost weekly basis, I mean, I would say more than a weekly basis. This place probably gets used maybe, if I stretched it, 100 times a year between all the home Stars games and all the home Mavericks games and all the concerts. And then there's a lot of other maybe knick-knacky events that I wasn't really aware of until I had to sit next to this place all day, every day. A lot of comedians come through here, and sometimes it's like a motivational speaker, like a Joel Osteen type or something. But it's neither here nor there. If it doesn't make enough money, we definitely shouldn't be spending taxpayer money on a losing proposition. If it does make money, then why should the taxpayers have to fund it? That's what I'm saying. Economically speaking, no good excuse. Now, for some people who are, they've never bothered to read an economics book in their adult life and just believed everything they were taught in high school and college, there is no measurable increase in economic activity, or even tax revenues from these sports stadiums. For all the people that are going to flood into this, I'm at the American Airlines Center, that are going to come here for the next Mavericks game. Most of those are people who are in the area, who were going to spend that money in the area anyway. Now, you can see this place fill up. Hey, 18,000 people showed up. That's fantastic. Yeah, but what you don't see is there's like 18,000 tables at restaurants that otherwise went empty, but it's smeared all across North Texas. So you don't really see it. You can't point at it And economics is so full of these intangibles. I'm tired of losing the argument because people can see, oh, look, a whole bunch of people gathered. That must be economically good. It's economically indifferent is what it is. We don't have big whales coming here, flying in from all over the place to spend $1 million at our top accommodations just so they could go see a Mavericks game or a Stars game or whatever the heck else is happening here. It's a money loser. And this bothers me because how come more people aren't putting their foot down? Remember when you were in school and the theater kids and the band kids and the other kind of nerdy kids like me used to gripe how the football team got all the attention. They got all the money. They got the big budget. You know how much a football coach makes compared to your average theater teacher? And so there was a sense, some of that was born out of jealousy. Some of that was born out of envy. But more than half of that is a legit complaint. Why are we spending all this time, effort, and resources on sports? I love sports. Sports are important. Sports are part of every society and every civilization going back to the ancient Sumerians. We have on cuneiform tablets where they're talking about their sports. But people, please, a little bit of moderation, a little bit of recognition that we put too much importance into this, that we're willing to expand the size, scope, and power of nerds in city council to spend your money on behalf of this stuff? Again, I love football. I'm probably going to watch every Cowboy game until they lose 8 games, and then I usually turn it off. And I don't want football to go away. That's not what I'm asking. I'm not asking for pro sports to go away. I'm just saying, if you're going to need a new stadium, pay for it yourself. Is that so hard? Should that be so shocking? Why is there not more hysteria around this? And this is another head scratcher where my Democrat friends seem to be okay with this and my Republican friends seem to be okay with this. And really, y'all, everyone, am I the only one that doesn't think we should be using taxpayer money to fund the play arena for billionaires? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Now, I will give credit to the Dallas Morning News. I know I'm saying something nice about the Dallas Morning News. Oh, my God. Is it the end of times? Is there a big earthquake? Are we about to get all raptured up in here? No, they were doing some good digging in this. And now they didn't sound like they were against the project altogether, but they were a little suspicious of the amount of the grant that was used to study it comes in under the threshold it takes for it to be passed by the city council. Anything over $100,000, any contract issued by the city over $100,000 has to pass through the city council. This was a little bit under that, so the city manager can just hand it out without any kind of approval from anyone else. Okay, that's a little suspicious. So what did we get in return from these people? They signed the contract in April, and it was a 3-month contract. 3 months is up. What's the report? Oh, you can't see the report. Well, do we have the report? Yeah, we have the report. Okay, well then, why don't you show us the report? We're not going to show you the report. Okay, we'll file a Freedom of Information Act request. And they said, okay, well, we're going to kick this up to the Attorney General to see if we can withhold this because of some other legal provision that when you're involved in ongoing negotiations, a Freedom of Information Act can be delayed, something to that effect. So now there's some shady stuff going on, and I can't wait to say nice things about the Dallas Morning News to actually try and drill that down. So good for them, but that's where we are. And a judge has stepped in, blocking the 10 commandments from being forcibly displayed in all Texas classrooms. Now, let me go ahead and start off with the caveat here, because I can foresee a caller is going to call in and try and catch me in some sort of doublespeak here. Look, overall speaking, my libertarian sensibilities say the government should not be able to force any poster into every classroom in Texas. Period, point blank, end of story. But since we're already dealing with the existing paradigm where we do have public schools and the government does control what can or should and shouldn't be and has to and is prohibited from classrooms, we're already in that arena. This doesn't bother me at all. At all. Now, do I think it's great? No, this is not my preference. My preference is we don't have public schools. Parents can choose to send their kids to schools that put the 10 commandments on the wall. They can choose an atheist school that doesn't put anything on the wall. They can choose a Muslim school that puts, Quranic quotes on the wall. Whatever you want. You can be a Unitarian, a flying spaghetti monster. I don't care. But since we already live in this paradigm where everyone else has insisted the government has full control over the socialized school system, because that's what it is, socialism. This is a terrible argument you get into with your neighbor when you try and implement socialism, because now there's a top-down approach, and either they're going to get their way or you're going to get your way. But if we split it up, and we got rid of the prepaid government monopoly that is the socialized school system, then you wouldn't have any bickering with your neighbor. Your neighbor would go to the atheist school that hates baby Jesus, and your kids would go to whatever school that you felt appropriate. But that's not what we're dealing with. So we have to ask ourselves, if these people don't have a problem with the government saying what the schools can and can't teach, what the schools can and can't provide, what they can and can't put on the walls, then they're really just against the 10 Commandments. Now, they will hide behind this garbage of, well, separation of church and state. We shouldn't have any sort of religious indoctrination in our public schools. All right, let's break that down then, too, because that doesn't stand up through just flat-out logical muster either. So the way that it's set up, the way the Founding Fathers intended, was this was to be a secular state. This wasn't to be a state atheism. That's Marxism. That's lefties. They're the ones who like to erase all religion from the public sphere. That's your Fidel Castros. That's your Soviet Unions. That's your Albanias. That's your pretty much most communist. That's one of the first things they run to, is trying to erase Jesus. From not just from the classroom, from all public life. So, okay, let's start with that. We're supposed to be secular. We're not supposed to be state atheist. So now your problem is really just with the 10 Commandments. You can't win that argument. You cannot win an argument against the 10 Commandments, because exactly what commandment do you not like? What do you think is inappropriate for kids? You think they should be taught butt stuff in 3rd grade, but not thou shalt not steal? What exactly offends you about the 10 Commandments? And not you, the people who are arguing against it and people who are too scared to call in the show right now. Tell me which commandment you don't like. Well, are you pro-stealing? Are you pro-murder? Are you pro-adultery? What is it? Now, I'm not just going to throw it out rhetorical questions and have no answers. The number one question we should all be asking ourselves, if our kids and the kids in our society that are coming up right now, if they're exposed to the 10 Commandments on a regular basis, would they benefit from that? Would we benefit from that? Would society as a whole benefit from that? What's the negative consequences of putting the 10 Commandments in the classroom? What negative thing could possibly happen? Oh, well, I feel excluded because I'm not a Christian. So? If I walk past a crescent, I don't feel like I'm excluded. If I walk past a Star of David, I don't feel like that's an assault on my religious liberties. Which commandment do you not like? Can I put up a poster with Shakespeare quotes? Can I put up a rainbow flag? Can I put up a poster with Zeus? Can I put up the Constitution? Because if your answer to most of that is yes, if you could put up any symbol, any list, any quotes, any historic document, as long as it's not Christian associated, well, then you're not open-minded. You're just a flat-out Christian bigot, hiding behind this whole myth of separation of church and state. You know, separation of church and state is not the eradication of Jesus. So if you're not calling for the names of the planets to be changed, all religious in nature, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, aren't these all religious figures? You're not offended by that? Oh, you're not offended by religion. You just don't like Christians. And my guest joining us now, Brandon Waltons from the Texas Scorecard, texasscorecard.com. Go sign up for their Texas Minute, the newsletter that happens every day. Hey, Brandon, welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Bro, I thought we were done with this thing. How did the 10 Commandments law get blocked in a court? I thought it already got blocked in a court and then unblocked, and now it's blocked again.
Yeah, well, such is the way these things typically go, right? I mean, the 10 Commandments law, which requires, with some asterisks, and I'll get to that, but requires classrooms in Texas to post a copy of the 10 Commandments. This is something that passed out of the legislature this session. Now, schools can pay for this if they want. If people donate them, then they'd have to display them. They're not required to post them if they don't have them. So, in other words, schools don't have to post it if they don't pay for it and they don't have anyone to donate it. But predictably, you had some groups filing a lawsuit. And one of those most recently comes out of San Antonio, where you had a federal district judge down there temporarily block the law from going into effect, which affects 11 different school districts. Actually, Plano ISD is one of them, but you also have Austin ISD and Houston ISD.
That's weird.
These districts that were involved in the lawsuit. And this is all coming as the law is scheduled to go into effect September 1st, though, as you can imagine, many schools have already started complying with this whenever they started classes either this week or last week.
So what's the argument against this? Is this the old separation of church and state garbage?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
It's kind of the typical actors there that usually oppose this sort of thing, saying that these left wing groups this violates separation of church and state. Meanwhile, we actually have a case pretty recently in another state that actually shows that no, this is the sort of thing you can do, especially given the educational context of it.
I hear you. All right, we're talking with Brandon Waltons from Texas Scorecard. What happens next in this case? Is this going to get overturned again? And do you think we'll actually end up with the posters in the classrooms?
Well, you already have Attorney General Ken Paxton saying that he's going to appeal this. So no surprise here. This is the sort of thing that we would expect to make its way up potentially to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, which tends to side with the state a little more often than some of these more radical judges at the federal level or district level, I should say. And I think it's very possible that this does get overturned, but maybe not without a bit of some months or potentially a year or more of legal fighting.
Well, Brandon Waltons, what's the negative consequences of kids being exposed to the Ten Commandments? Like, what's the worst that could possibly happen?
Well, I don't see any. Certainly, Democrats, whenever they passed this in the Texas House, you had Democrats making a big show of opposing it. I'm not sure that it got any Democrat support. If it did, it was very little in the Texas House. From people like James Tallarico, who's now become sort of the media darling, who's planning a run for potentially the U.S. Senate. But he was out there saying, this is Christian nationalism to have a copy of the Ten Commandments in classrooms.
How can it be Christian nationalism if it predates Christianity?
Yes, I mean, excellent point, right? Christianity, not the only religion that uses the Ten Commandments.
I think the part that I kind of giggle at is this is clearly anti-Christian bias, but this is also a perceived anti-Christian bias. These people were ignorant. This because the Ten Commandments are part of Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. Mm-hmm. So, exactly. and my point being, not like it's ultra religious. So, the point being, this is a historical document that is the basis of Western civilization, one of the founding documents that all of Western civilization is built on. Can't we just get it pushed through on the basis of it's a historical document, not necessarily a religious document. It deserves to get a mention. Just because it has some religious connection to it doesn't mean we should pretend it doesn't exist. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the argument that the state has made. And so I expect that they'll continue to do that in their appeals. Attorney General Paxton, like I said, has already said he'll appeal it. And they're arguing that this is a document of historical importance.
Yeah, why don't they gripe about the religious names being used like for our planets, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter? These are all religious figures. No complaints there?
Yeah, I haven't seen anything from the ACLU on that yet, but maybe let's not give them any ideas.
Right. All right. Well, you have a great website. I appreciate y'all keeping up with this for us, and I'll have you back on when something else happens on it.
Absolutely. Thanks, James.
All right. That's Brandon Waltons from the great TexasScorecard.com. There's about 8, maybe 12 websites I go to every day before I start this show. That's one of them now, TexasScorecard.com. Your thoughts on the Ten Commandments being blocked from Texas classrooms? 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Rob Thomas is coming to the Pavilion at Toyota Music Factory August 29th. That's just a week from tomorrow with special guest A Great Big World. Get tickets and information at livenation.com. And WBAP is going to be giving you 2 chances to win tickets to see Rob Thomas and his all-night days tour. One coming up on the WBAP morning show, and then with me, James Parker, tomorrow on Name That Artist. I'm giving away a couple tickets for him there, so don't miss your last chances to win here on WBAP. Coming up on the James Show, if you think second grade kids should be exposed to the ABCs but not the Ten Commandments, you should really reevaluate your entire life. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Just trying to defend baby Jesus over here. Apparently some people don't want him in the classroom with your kids. They think he's too dangerous. The Ten Commandments law that Texas legislature recently passed has been blocked again. I know, it's like Groundhog Day. It got passed, it got blocked, now it got unblocked, now it's blocked again. We expect to be unblocked soon. And there's all kinds of caveats and twists and turns, legally speaking, in this situation. But I really enjoy the context it puts a lot of people in. Because one of the other ongoing discussions, debates in the court of public opinion that we've been having is, what about all this smut that's in the library of your kid's school? Grandkid's school, maybe. I don't know how old you are. But you've seen, whether it's on social media or just listening to WBAP, the things that they want to be exposed to your kids. Things that they want to teach your kids when they're in elementary school, behind your parents' back. These are the same people. Remember, these are the same people that have a problem with the 10 Commandments. And when you put it in that kind of context, like, dude, what the hell's wrong with you? So you'll defend the ABCs, but not the 10 Commandments. What do you think is more important for the kids to learn? You know, a second grade kid. You don't think it'd be good if he sat next to a piece of paper every once in a while that said, "Thou shalt not steal"? I mean, we don't have to even put it in the Old Testament. We could translate it into current stuff. Don't steal. How about that? That's the contemporary vernacular. Don't murder. Don't commit adultery. Like, what's your problem with the 10 Commandments? What part of that do you think is dangerous for kids to be exposed to? Because the only argument that I'm getting is, well, we won't feel included. You know, my daughter's a Hindu, or my son's an atheist, or we're Muslim, or whatever. And it feels like that we're being excluded. Oh. Well, do you have that same complaint if there's a rainbow flag in the classroom? I'm straight. I feel excluded. No problem there? Oh, okay. Then you don't really have a problem with indoctrination. You don't really have a problem with, separation of church and state, or keeping your politics out of the classroom, or this is just supposed to be about reading, writing, and arithmetic. You just don't like Christians. You don't like Christianity. You don't like baby Jesus. Go ahead. Just admit it. You don't like it. Because I cannot find a negative consequence to kids being exposed to the 10 Commandments. Do I think the law is a little silly? Yeah, we don't need the 10 Commandments in the football locker room, or in the shop class, or in every single classroom every kid goes into at all times. But I certainly don't mind the law. If we're going to have public schools where the government gets to choose what we teach, when we teach, who we teach it to, when it's taught, what's going to be on the wall, why not the 10 Commandments? I have a hard time thinking of anything better to put on the wall. Maybe the Constitution, maybe the Declaration of Independence, but the 10 Commandments. I mean, some people have pointed out before, when we were talking about this like a year ago, that the 10 Commandments, if you follow this, it's really hard. It's really hard to be on Team Blue after this. Because how much of the Team Blue worldview is based on envy? Thou shalt not covet. That's what the whole wealth inequality thing is. That's what the whole gender pay gap is. That's what the whole privilege versus victim thing is. That's what the whole tax the rich, not paying your fair share. If you're saying you're not paying your fair share to Mark Cuban and Elon Musk, but you're not saying it to the 40% of the country that pays zero in income taxes, I don't believe you. You're not really about fairness. You're just running off plain old human envy. And the 10th commandment would steer you away from that. Thou shalt not steal. That's another big one. And we all know what stealing is. It was when you involuntarily take resources from someone for yourself. Now, everyone recognizes it would be wrong if I went into your house and I took $100 off of your dresser and I went and spent it on whatever I felt like. But a lot of people lose their moral clarity when they have the government come take $100 from you, from your neighbor, and then give it to them. That's stealing. I'm sorry, but food stamps, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, these are all stealing. That you're taking resources from someone involuntarily and spending it on yourself. Now, it's a benevolent form of stealing. It's not a violent crime, but the very fact that it's not voluntary is where it crosses the boundary into theft. Thou shalt not steal. And I'm not saying poor people shouldn't be fed or housed or get medical care. I'm just saying the resources that come from it should be private voluntary donations. Is that so evil? Thou shalt not murder. Yeah, that would be a good one to post in 2% of the counties in America are responsible for more than half of the murders. So murder is not a problem that's an American problem. It is hyper concentrated in about a dozen, maybe 20 inner cities and major metropolitan areas. And if we solve for that, you solve for more than half of your crimes, more than half of your murders. The kid that was shooting up Wilmer Hutchins last year. Maybe he needed to see this. Maybe he could have benefited. Oh, if I'm having a conflict, I know one of the things I shouldn't do is murder. How do I know that? I've been seeing it every day for my entire scholastic life. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Yeah, it's really hard to be on Team Blue if you follow Commandment 7 there. And I'm not saying Republicans or conservatives are impervious to adultery, but we're not running down having parades where we're wearing wiener suits, are we? We're not going through D.C. with vagina hats on. Promiscuity is not really the bag of Team Red nearly as much as it is Team Blue. So, yeah, this seems like some real good advice in here. But I think the biggest one would be to honor your father and mother. That's right. Commandment number 5. They are constantly trying to get between children and their parents, aren't they? You've seen it happen. Let's have secret conversations without their parents knowing about these books that are in the library that if I handed it to your kid in Walmart, I could be arrested for. But no, they need you to be separated, to be cleaved from your parents because your parents don't vote the way that they want you to. So here's a good example. Here's a viral video of a guy mocking his own mother for being a Trump supporter.
Oh, hey, Mom. Just wanted to check in and see how your grocery prices are doing. Is it still worth it to not have a relationship with your grandchild, your only grandchild? Was it worth it? Your prices went up?
Yeah, so your family, your familial relations, the relationship between a grandmother and the granddaughter is more important than whatever political beef you have. Disregarding your parents' opinion and preventing your own child from having a relationship with their family members. You have your priorities way out of whack, sir. You clearly did not absorb the 10 Commandments. Because who's your new God? Who do you honor? Not your father and mother. You honor what? Your political party? You got yourself a nice little idol there, don't you? That's number 1. And number 2, you should not have any other gods before God. You should not make yourself an idol. Bro, when your political opinion becomes more important than your own mother, a mother, unless she's abusive or a crackhead or something I don't know about, you might want to reevaluate your entire life again. But yeah, honor your father and mother. That's a big one. Because maybe your parents aren't stupid. Maybe your parents don't agree with the way the media and your professors want you to vote for a reason. Maybe they're not stupid. Maybe they did think what you thought, and then they went out into the world, and after 10, 20, 30 years of experience in the real world, they changed their mind and adjust their worldview according to this new wisdom and experience they had picked up. Maybe you're not smarter than your parents' 18-year-old kid or 22-year-old kid. I mean, he had a baby, so I guess he's an adult, but he was dressed like I dressed when he was 14. So, hell yeah, we should have the 10 Commandments in classrooms. This country could use it.
The James Show Podcast.